It happened on a rainy Thursday in October, one of those moody gray days where everything feels heavier than it should. I was a junior in high school, and all anyone cared about that morning was lunch. We were starving, soaked from the walk between buildings, and tired of pretending we weren't counting the hours until Halloween break. But we didn't make it to lunch that day, at least not really. The thunder had been rumbling since third period, but when it finally cracked above the cafeteria, it didn't sound natural. It wasn't a roll, it was 4 distinct booms, sharp, sudden, like something slamming hard against metal. Everyone stopped eating, and then the lunchroom doors flew open. Security came storming in, yelling for everyone to get up. "Let's go, now, leave your trays, go to the multi-purpose room, move." It was chaos. Teachers herded kids like cattle, while the rest of us scrambled to figure out what was going on. At first, I thought it was a drill, some kind of lockdown procedure, but the panic in the staff's voices said otherwise. When we got to the multi-purpose room, they closed the curtains and locked the doors behind us. That's when I remembered something awful. The back wall of that room was nothing but glass. Just one long floor-to-ceiling panel looking out into the woods behind the school. At night, it gave a beautiful view of the stars. But today, it felt like a death trap. We all sat there on the floor, backs against walls, knees to our chests. Teachers whispered to one another. Kids clutched their phones, scrolling endlessly for updates, while others cried quietly, trying not to make noise. The tension was unbearable. After maybe 20 minutes of nothing, a kid named Lucas came back into the room. He was one of those guys who always needed to know more than everyone else, and he'd snuck out, just for a moment, to ask a janitor what was happening. His face was pale when he returned. "There's a guy out front," he whispered, barely loud enough for those of us nearby to hear. "He's threatening to shoot the cops. Says if they evict him, he'll take them down first, then himself." The room seemed to tighten. Someone whispered, "Is he close?" Lucas nodded. "Next property over. You know that old ranch house behind the football field? That's him. They've got the whole place surrounded." And then he added, "He's been watching the school." Those words hit me like a gut punch. Watching the school? Lucas said the guy was a registered sex offender, had cameras in his windows. Neighbors complained for months, but no one ever did anything about it. He'd sit in that dark little house on the hill and just watch. With binoculars. I started to shake. I remembered walking home after track meets and feeling like eyes were on me. Everyone always said the woods gave them the creeps, but maybe it wasn't the woods. Maybe it was him. The girl next to me, I'll never forget her name, Melissa, turned and whispered something that chilled me to my core. "I saw him last Halloween." I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She swallowed. "My friends and I cut through the back lot that night. Thought it'd be spooky, you know? Shortcut through the woods near his house. We saw his window. He had something written on it." She hesitated. "What did it say?" I asked. Melissa's eyes were wide, like she was reliving it in real time. It said, "Don't come here, or I'll kill you." Written, in red, all over the glass. We all stared at her. "Wait," another kid said. "That was real?" Melissa nodded. "We thought it was just Halloween stuff, like fake blood or something. But it looked too thick, too dark. I didn't want to believe it. But now, none of us could breathe. That house had always looked like part of the background, just a forgotten property on the edge of campus. But this changed everything. We'd walked past that house 100 times. We'd laughed in its shadow. We thought we were safe. Turns out we were wrong. Eventually, after what felt like hours, the principal came in and told us it was over. The man had been taken into custody. No one was hurt. But that didn't ease the fear in the room. Some kids couldn't stop crying. Some refused to leave. And me? I couldn't stop picturing that window. Later, word spread about what they found inside the house. Dozens of old photos, screenshots from school security footage, notes scrawled on legal pads about students, names, class schedules, seating charts. Things no one outside the school should have access to. And the window, the message, it was real. The police confirmed it. Dried human blood. He'd written it the year before and never washed it off. We never learned why the authorities hadn't stepped in sooner. Maybe they didn't think he was a real threat. Maybe he was just another complaint. But that October day proved something I'll never forget. Sometimes monsters don't wear masks. They live next door. They watch in silence. And they leave warnings, not to scare you, but to dare you. It was supposed to be a forgettable Friday. Last period, spring break around the corner, everyone half zoned out, half counting the minutes until freedom. I was in calculus, which usually meant trying not to fall asleep, while Mr. Duncan scribbled equations across the board. But that day, he'd waved it all off. "Forget the lesson," he said. "You've made it. Let's play some Sporkle." Trivia games, laptops out, music low, people laughing, some cheating their way through geography quizzes. It felt like the world was already on pause. That's when the loudspeaker crackled to life. We all looked up, expecting the usual monotone voice, saying something about bus delays or early dismissals. But it wasn't that. It was the dean's voice, and he sounded terrified. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Lockdown, now." Then silence. For half a second, the room didn't move. Then, everything snapped into motion. Mr. Duncan shot to the door, slammed it shut, flicked the lock. Lights off, curtains drawn. We all scrambled to the corner of the room, the side furthest from the hallway. No one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the projector as Mr. Duncan quietly shut it down. And then, we heard it. Screaming. Not scared screaming. Rage. A man's voice echoed down the hall, distorted and raw, like something from a nightmare. "I'll kill all of you." Then came the sound of lockers slamming. Bam, bam, bam. Like he was hitting them with something heavy. We couldn't see him, but we felt every crash. A few kids started crying. One girl beside me clamped her hand over her mouth, trying not to sob out loud. Mr. Duncan crouched beside us, finger to his lips, whispering, "Don't move." The footsteps were fast and erratic. Then came the banging. On doors, on lockers, on walls. And then he reached ours. The handle shook violently, rattling like it was about to snap off. He pounded with both fists, screaming again, "Open the door!" His voice. God, I'll never forget it. It wasn't just angry. It was unhinged, wild, like something inside him had broken a long time ago, and this was all that was left. No one breathed. The door groaned from the force of his fists, but the lock, bless Mr. Duncan, held. Eventually, after what felt like forever, the pounding stopped. The footsteps moved away. Silence. But it wasn't peace. It was that sharp, paralyzing kind of silence that makes you wonder if it's safe to breathe again. We stayed there for nearly an hour, locked down, huddled in the dark. Every sound felt amplified. The tick of the clock, the creak of the building, the occasional distant shuffle that made our hearts stop. Finally, an announcement. All clear. Officers are securing the building. Remain in place. It wasn't the relief you'd think. The mood didn't lift. No one moved. Eventually, police came to escort us out in small groups. We were searched, then guided to the gym, where panicked parents were already waiting. But the scariest part, came later. That night, we got the full story. Turns out, the man never got in that day because he was already inside. A janitor, God bless him, had gone to clean out a storage closet behind the auditorium and found a sleeping bag, empty snack wrappers, a half-used bottle of cough syrup, and something else, a revolver. The janitor saw the handle first, what looked like a .44 Magnum, sticking out from under a pile of rags. By the time officers arrived, the gun and the man were gone. They searched the school top to bottom. Nothing. Dogs, drones, cameras, all came up empty. No broken windows, no forced doors. Just that revolver-shaped imprint in the dust and the echo of that voice. Some say he was a former student. Others think he slipped in during a school event the night before and stayed hidden. But the scariest theory? He never left. Some nights, the night shift janitor swears he hears footsteps echoing in the halls. Others claim to have seen lights flicker in storage rooms that haven't been opened in years. Me? I don't know what to believe. But I do know one thing. There are moments, quiet ones, where I still hear that pounding in my dreams. That voice, hoarse and cracked, yelling to be let in. And when I do, I remember that Friday, when fear wasn't a lesson in a textbook. It was standing just inches away. It was my first real job out of college, a quiet, easy gig doing IT support at my old high school. Same flickering hallways, same stained ceiling tiles, same smell of floor wax and teenage sweat. Only now I had a staff badge and a desk in the basement. Not exactly glamorous, but it had its perks. Strong AC, total privacy, and just enough distance from the chaos upstairs. There was only one problem. My office door didn't lock. I remember thinking it was no big deal. I mean, who was going to barge into the basement of a high school, right? It was a Friday in May, when everything changed. I was halfway through re-imaging some old laptops when the phone on my desk rang. Internal line. I picked it up. IT support. This is Nate. A voice I didn't recognize whispered, "We're in lockdown. Someone possibly armed is in the building." Then the line went dead. At first, I just sat there, blinking at the receiver like I hadn't heard right. But then I felt it. That sudden, electric silence you get before a storm. Or something worse. I stood up, walked to the light switch, and turned it off. The room fell into darkness, lit only by the faint glow of my monitor. Then, I waited. Alone, in a dead silent basement. Every creak of the pipes overhead made my chest tighten. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I nearly dropped it pulling it out. It was a text from a friend upstairs. He worked in the gym. "Dude, this is fucking crazy. Some guy shot Mr. Buckley. Red shirt, red hat. Don't come upstairs." I stared at those words for a long moment. And then I heard the creak. The basement door at the top of the stairs opened. Footsteps, heavy ones, fast, coming down. I backed into the darkest corner of the room and slid under my desk, trying to quiet my breath. My heart pounded so hard I was sure it was going to give me away. The footsteps grew louder, then stopped, right outside my office. Then, someone entered. They didn't say anything, didn't turn on the lights. They just stood there. I saw a silhouette in the faint monitor glow. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, broad-shouldered. I couldn't see much, except the color of his shirt. Even in the dim light, it was clear. Red. My phone buzzed again, almost making me yelp. "He's still in the building. Cops are on their way. We're locked in the gym. Stay low." The man in my office shifted slightly. Then he whispered, "I'm just a parent, hiding with you." His voice. It didn't sound afraid. It didn't even sound human. It was calm, too calm, like he was reading from a script. And then I saw it, a red baseball cap. I knew right then, this wasn't some parent. This was him. I didn't think. I just bolted. I dove from under the desk, scrambling for the door. I heard him yell something, low, guttural, and then came the gunshot. The sound ripped through the basement like a thunderclap, deafening and violent. I felt the air shift as it tore past me, hitting the concrete wall just inches from my head. But I kept running, up the stairs, 2 at a time. I burst through the basement door into the hallway above and ran straight into 2 officers rounding the corner. I collapsed into them, shaking, trying to explain between gasps. They swept past me and stormed down the stairs. More shots rang out, less than before. Then, silence. It was over in minutes. They caught him. Mr. Buckley survived, just barely. I gave my statement, told them everything. They said I was lucky, that if I'd hesitated for even a second longer, I'd be dead. The bullet they pulled from the wall behind my desk was a clean headshot. He wasn't trying to scare me. He was trying to end me. Later, they found out he'd entered through the back gym doors during a community event. No one knew who he was, just that he'd brought a weapon and a story about a parent-teacher meeting gone wrong. But the part that sticks with me, the part I can't shake, that voice, that whisper in the dark. I'm just a parent. Sometimes I dream about it. I hear it behind me when I'm walking home at night. I see flashes of red in crowds and have to remind myself it's just some guy in a cap. But every time I close a door behind me, I still check the lock, twice. And every time I walk into a new room, I make sure I know exactly where the exits are. Because the man in the red hat, he didn't just want to kill a teacher that day. He wanted someone to hide with. And next time, he might whisper something different.